You talk about non-violent communication, Simone. Give us some insight into, what do you really mean by that?
I'm part of my background. I used to be a lawyer, and years ago I got introduced to nonviolent communication by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And at that time when I got introduced to it, I thought, oh my goodness, I have many years of spiritual practice in my back. And when I got introduced to nonviolent communication, I had a sense that here, finally, someone gives me the how to do.
Right, okay.
And the how to do is with I would say, a simple way of trying to observe, not to judge, really being connected with your feelings, with your sensations, connect with your needs, which is by itself needs a little bit of explanation. I would call it my heart's yearning, my deepest longing, which actually I am myself. I call needs today because I am more evolving into the spiritual side of nonviolent communication, which actually Marshall Rosenberg in his later years also said, the basis of all what I do is spirituality. He didn't name that in the beginning. And so the nonviolent communication, how it's taught today, in many ways, it's more taught as a communication model, but actually, at its core, it's an awareness practice. So talking about needs as soul qualities, which actually it's me, it's myself. When I talk about love, when I talk about freedom, that's something that is me, speaking from that. And then also having a way of interacting with someone else. It normally helps to connect, to see where are you, what are your heart's longing, what is the soul quality that wants to live through you. And that's actually not different than mine. So on the level of needs, we really can connect. And from there, we try to find something that is helpful for the two of us. So when it comes to bringing this into daily life, bringing this into action, then the best way is that your needs and my needs are being considered in that. Your quality, you as your whole being, me as my whole being is seen. And then let's find ways where we can be ourselves. Yeah. So what I'm expressing is much more my understanding of a spiritual approach to it, that meeting my needs actually is a way of expressing who I am, and at the same time also giving you the space to express who you are and meeting on that level.
And that's a lovely way to put it, Simone, because how I interpret that is actually a dance of two energies, just embracing, and you imagine in the physical sense two people dancing. Well, this is the same thing, only on an energetic, vibrational way, isn't it? And that's what I've learned, and that's why when I did some sort of background research around your non-violent communication, everything lit up in me, because my background from a very early age was violence. Mm-hmm. And I've made that transformation from that very violent, that very sort of ego-driven survival, raw way of being, to this much more powerful way of being. And sometimes when I revisit guys and girls that I've grown up with that from the past, and they've not made this transition, they don't understand, the label that they now give me is I'm soft and I'm fluffy and I've lost touch with reality. And my assertion on that is very simple. no, before I wasn't real, but now I am. That is for me the blatant reality for, you know, this kind of more spiritual, faith driven. And I personally, Simone, use the word faith in not necessarily in a religious context, because there is no right, there is no wrong. I think that's our most intimate and personal relationship for all of us. I believe that. So I'm certainly not decrying religion, but for me it is around this faith of things like letting go and this dancing that we're talking about, and this energy and this mutuality, and sharing this positive vibe into the world that will change the world. But that change comes from within first, and then we emit that. And as I say, I think what's even more powerful is when two people keep exchanging that, that compounds and grows, and that vibrational effect out into the world, I believe is monumental. And that will, in terms to bring it back to the non-violent communication, my perception of that, Simone, is that will change the world, because I think the world is now radically crying out for change.
I think, you know, that's so true what you say, because as you say, you have been grown up in a violent environment, and there, in my understanding, just being human at that time, at this time, here on this planet, and with all what we have gone through, I have a sense that we all have experienced in some way violence, or I call it also trauma. And when my understanding is, and that's, I'm speaking here also just to be also transparent, that doesn't mean that I'm always nonviolent. When I'm triggered, when I fall into survival or stress mode, it's just very natural that I go into this fight and flight and wanting to be right. And especially this wanting to be right becomes so strong, because I think that's so true. Once I heard Eckhart Tolle say, when we have this, I want to be right, and that's very often connected with blaming the outer for not feeling good, and I know how it's supposed to be, and then expecting this to be like this. And he said something that rings so true for me. Whenever I want to be right, at the core of it, it is always about me having the right to live. That is on the very deep level activated. And when that in some way is threatened, and it doesn't even make sense maybe to the outer, but my system experiences something like this. This is a threatening situation. I go into this fight, flight reaction, and then having techniques or having something, tools that helps me to get out of this state, to reflect and respond instead of react.
Yeah.
That is something, and that's learnable. We can learn this. And I think the earlier in age we learn how to deal with those situations, being human, being on this planet, it's just, there's always situations that come up. But how can I deal, how can I respond differently to my own inner reactions and to reactions to other self? And I love it in the English. Respond is very much connected with responsibility.
Yeah.
So for me, taking responsibility for my feeling state, for what's happening inside of me in relationship to what's out there, that's actually empowering.